Welcome to our session today, our In Conversation that we're holding in our Grants Focus Week. Our Grants Focus Week that's from communities to classrooms. And I hope you've already been able to engage with some of the material that we have put up. My name's Fiona Moss, and I work at Culham St Gabriel's as the Education and Programmes Manager. And this Grants Focus Week is an absolute team effort and is showcasing work that me and lots of my colleagues do. And you will hear me talk about some of the work that we have done. So we've got a Grants Focus Week. Well, the reason we've got a Grants Focus Week, of course, is because we offer grants and we showcase the work that we do. We welcome project grants from anyone who is working in the field of religion and worldviews, but we do have some particular foci. And this year we're thinking about special educational needs and disabilities, artificial intelligence. We're thinking about teachers with other specialisms. We're thinking about supporting teachers and leaders from underrepresented groups as well. But we do welcome things from across the world of religion and worldviews within schools as well. And in a moment, me or maybe one of my colleagues will pop a link to the Culham St Gabriel's website, and where you can find out about applying for funding for a project. So as well as that, you can see on our Culham St Gabriel's webpage some current and previous projects that we have been involved with, we have funded. And if you're interested in applying, then Julia, who is beautifully in the middle of my screen at the moment, thanks very much, Julia, who is our Grants, Governance and Partnership Manager, would love to have a chat with you about that. She ran a masterclass a little bit earlier this week, and the film of that will soon be available. So Julia has already started to put those links. She may well pop into the chat her email address for you as well. Well, I mentioned this as part of a Grants Focus Week that we are running. And so one of the things we've already put out this week is a link to some research that we have funded. So our research spotlight that came out yesterday, which some of you might have seen, was on the Understanding the Interplay project. So if you've not seen that already, do have a look out for that one. I think I've got the link for that I will just pop in. That's a lovely piece about a project that launched this very week. So do have a look at that project as well. And tomorrow you're going to get our resource spotlight on empowering voices. And Emily, who was involved in that project, is with us today. So you're going to hear quite a lot more about that project and the amazing resources that come from it in a moment. Also during the week, we've had blogs, and we are going to have blogs and films from Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and England. So there's lots to look out there for to find out about the great things that have come out of some of the things we've been able to fund and the great things that these people running these projects have done. So I'm going to turn to our 5 speakers today, and I'm going to ask them, and Hannah, you might want to spotlight them when I mention their names, and perhaps keep their pictures up there along with mine to make people be able to see them. I'm going to ask each one just to tell you their name, kind of where they are and what their project title is, and then we'll get into the first question, and there will hopefully be time for you to ask questions at the end as well. So, Roman, I've kind of said your name, but do you want to say a little more?
Greetings from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am the founder of an organization called Interfaith Photo Voice, and we're collaborating with the Kumba Imani Millennium Center in the LA neighborhood of Liverpool. And the title of our project is Using Photo Voice to Foster Interfaith Dialogue and Community Connection.
Brilliant. Thank you, Roman. We will hear more about that at the moment. Alexis, not Liverpool, but somewhere in a different area of the country, and certainly
Yeah.
not America.
Hi from sunny Brighton this afternoon. I'm Alexis Sherwood, Head of Philosophy, Religion and Ethics at Brighton Girls GDST and Network Chair for the 26 Heads of Philosophy, Religion and Ethics across our family of schools. Our project is to develop a girls' first feminist Key Stage 3 religion and worldviews curriculum framework. And it's not just me, I'm working collaboratively with all 26 of the brilliant heads of RS across the GDSD, bringing their own wealth of experience in teaching girls and their specialisms.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexis. Now we have Simone.
Hello, my name is Simone Roberts. I'm a mother of six home educated children, but 7 altogether. And our project is about how our family weave faith into everyday life through music.
And you're based, I don't know if you said this, but you're based in West Midlands.
Based in Birmingham, West Midlands.
Thank you, Simone. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Sinclair. I'm Head of Department and Senior Lecturer of Religious Studies at the Open University. I'm joining you from Lancaster, and I'm going to talk about a project that's called the DocuTube method, and that is using the process of filmmaking to engage young people in thinking about religious diversity in the past and present.
Thank you, Stephanie. And last but not least, Emily.
Hello, my name is Emily Bignell. So I'm creative director of a project called Empowering Voices, Exploring Worldviews, which is a project based in Lincolnshire, and it's about creating podcasts, co-creating podcasts with young people about worldviews and religion.
Thank you, Emily. So I've got 3 questions. I'm going to ask them, and then I'm going to open the floor up to you. Feel free to pop questions in as we go along. But if you are popping a question in, can you put the word question at the front of your question? Just so I know that that is what you are doing. So our first question, what's your project? And what is it that you are trying to change? Or if you've already finished your project, what were you trying to change? Well, I'm going to start with Roman, who has got a project that is in process. Roman.
Thank you. Well, we're using a visual storytelling method called photo voice. It's something that comes out of public health originally in the 1990s. And we've adapted it over the years to use for interfaith and intergroup dialogue. And we've built in some conflict resolution tools into the process. And we're introducing this, kind of dipping our toe in the waters of what it would look like to equip RE teachers in the UK and community leaders as well, to use this approach for building understanding across differences, for helping to engage people in ways that lead to empathy, that empathy can build towards something that we might recognize as solidarity, and that together folks might change their community or their campus, or just maybe even their own minds about things. Photo voice involves people responding to prompts with their smartphone cameras. Everybody seems to have one. I don't know about you in the UK, but this year my wife is an educator, and at her secondary school they have banned phones from the classroom, and it's this big experiment to see what the effects are. But everybody seems to have a camera. This year we're on track globally to make something in the range of 2 trillion new photographs, and this is an attempt to tap into that cultural practice of making photos. They respond to prompts like, what does your faith look like in everyday life? What are your beliefs, your practices, your values? What's that look like? They're put into small groups for guided conversations. And then over the course of several meetings like that, they work together to curate their photos into a shared story that they might be able to use to engage other people beyond their classroom. And so what we're hoping to happen, well, we're hoping that, first of all, that teachers will have a new tool that in the process of training together, so we trained something 16, 17 people 2 weeks ago in Liverpool, that they would form a local community of practice of people that have this tool and are sort of holders of an expertise that then can be deployed in multiple ways. And then we're meeting together over the next months as teachers integrate this tool into their curriculum. So stay tuned. There's more to come. We are just at the beginning stages here.
Brilliant, Roman. Well, you will not be surprised to know that phones in classrooms is a big issue in this country as well. People have different ideas about that. Thank you, Roman. I think you've really already started to help us to think about that overarching title we've got about amplifying authentic voices in religion and worldviews education. That's 16 or 17 people who have been trained. And I know it's a method you have used in other places, but great that that is going on in Liverpool. Alexis, over to you.
Thank you.
So our project is, isn't it?
Yes, our project is also just starting. So collaboratively, we're designing a girls first feminist key stage 3 religion and worldviews curriculum framework to elevate women's leadership worldwide by educating and empowering girls to be ethical, globally minded change makers in a broad-based, critical and reflective way, contributing to more respectful and open global society for women. So it's collaborative across the GDSD, so involves all 26 of our heads of pre and 2,000 GDSD students working together with expertise outside the GDSD to, for example, Nikki McGee. At present, we're designing a questionnaire to all GDSD girls, ensuring that their authentic voices, so global majority heritage, Black, Asian, UK minority groups, white minority ethnic, and many other intersectionalities are heard in identifying what they think are the global issues for women and in religion and worldviews. We're planning a conference of GDSD girls and their pre-teachers with external speakers too, to collaborate in creating this framework next spring. So the big change that we want to see and that we're really passionate about is that more girls are educated in UK girls' schools to be global change makers for women. So the aim is that girls in their diversity, through an innovative Key Stage 3 religion and worldviews curriculum framework, are inspired to become informed global change makers and equipped with the confidence to be the women we need to help solve the world's biggest challenges for women. So we want to influence the delivery of Key Stage 3 religion and worldview in UK girls' schools to reflect the global issues for women in a broad-based, critical and reflective way, and also influence this in mixed schools too, and create a paradigm shift in the centrality of this.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexis. So we're not only talking about raising up voices now, we're talking about raising up voices and giving people the confidence to share those voices and seeing where their voices fit. Very exciting. Thank you, Alexis. Simone, over to you.
Hello. So we created a video that we filmed ourselves. My husband is a professional photographer and videographer. So we created like a family event that was an assembly. And by assembly, we wanted to inspire ourselves, remind ourselves that music is the universal language of the soul. And we wanted to bring music into our everyday lives and weave it through our lives and kind of to represent our faith too. And so the video represents that. We hosted a family event that we called the Assembly, and we invited members of the community, the home ed community, and also the local community, pensioners. Everyone was invited to come and join the event and have an assembly with us. And through that, we shared our faith, our music. We sung hymns, worship songs, and everyone just really rejoiced in it and really enjoyed it. We do have a video that we created from that, and I'll tell you more about that as we go through.
Thank you, Simone. So Simone is part of a home education panel. So one of the things Culham St Gabriel's have done over the last 18 months is we have had a panel of home educators who have been working with us in a participatory grant making project to work to support other home educators to do religion and worldviews education within their home education community, whether that's just within their family or whether that's meeting up with other home educators. So Simone, thank you for describing what you did there, but you're also involved in the more with the wider panel, and we will be putting out a little bit more information on what's come out of that project as well. Thank you, Simone. So I'm going to move on to Stephanie next.
Yeah, hi, I'm going to share some slides, although it feels a bit silly because no one else had slides. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the DocuTube methods that I briefly introduced at the beginning. But I should say it's not just me doing this. I'm working with a really big team on this. So at the moment, the bit that's funded by Column St. Gabriel's involves my colleagues John Wolfe, John Maiden, and Caitlin Teller as well, that I'd really quite like to mention as well. So I haven't just done this work all by myself. And it goes back to a project that was originally, it's a real international project that was initially funded by the European Union. Yeah, Column St. Gabriel's have given us more funding to look at how this, to further develop this method. We're really grateful for that. So what it is about, it uses the creative process of filmmaking to really get young people to actively engage with various, with ideas about religion in the past and present, and particular religious diversity. So it's aimed at young people aged 13 to 18. And as part of the earlier phase of the Retopia project, which stands for Religious Toleration and Peace, we developed an online resources gallery almost, with resources, what we call clippings, more than 400 clippings with short bite-sized text, maps and images and videos that introduce examples of how people in different geographical and historical contexts have thought about and experienced diverse religious beliefs and practices and found ways of living together. And the DocuTube method uses the process of making short documentary style films that young people make themselves to engage with these clippings and the questions they raise. So as a result of that, we've produced a number of free resources for teachers and educators. That includes an online course, as well as our website with the clippings collection. And what we're aiming to do is really to get young people to move beyond generalizations and stereotypes about religious diversity, actively engage with this history, and make really constructive and critical connections between the past, present, and their own experiences. Filmmaking is a really collaborative process, so it's very much about working in teams and valuing each other's perspectives and skills. And actually, there's no way of learning more about how information is produced and disseminated than making a film yourself. So it really is about media literacy as well. So there's lots of parallels with the other projects. And what we're really focusing on at the moment is to explore how the method can be used in home education context. So there's some parallels with Simone there as well. How we can further develop the peace building potential of the method in areas where there may be division in community relations, and also think about how the method can be adapted to primary school contexts. So, and we've really taken a teacher training approach very much in the UK. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think you can Stephanie's already sort of referred to some of the other things, and you're beginning to see the links and how we are able to make these connections and to elevate these real voices, these authentic voices. So finally, Emily, like Stephanie, you've got a project that is completed. Well, Stephanie's probably continues and continues, but yours definitely is completed, Emily. And yours is the one that's going to appear in the resource spotlight tomorrow.
Yes, very excited about that. Yeah, so our project is Empowering Voices, Exploring Worldviews. And we've made this project over the last 4 years. So it's been a long time in the making. And it's the co-creation of podcasts which explore 7 different worldviews. Each includes an audio drama, an in-conversation element, and a soundscape. And it's also got a bespoke education pack alongside it. And it's been co-created with schools, faith and non-faith groups, and artists in particular locations across the UK. The project was commissioned through Lincolnshire Diocesan Board of Education, and also links together Shooting Fish Theatre Company, Cultural Solutions UK, and Tailor Made Arts. It's kind of made available for all, but it was really created with a Lincolnshire audience of young people in mind. So Lincolnshire is a very monocultural place, and it was really an opportunity for young people to understand and connect with worldviews from across the country. And it's aimed at years 5 to 8. So in terms of change, so what we've really aimed is to help challenge prejudice, break down stereotypes, and reduce discrimination by promoting dialogue, knowledge, and empathy. So through the co-creation process, young people met with and had meaningful interactions with people from local faith and non-faith groups. And each podcast includes a fictional audio drama that young people sort of understood from the outset that their task was to create characters and stories for this podcast, and to help their audiences gain knowledge and understanding of each worldview through this. And that really helped to frame their interactions. And for us, sort of good drama is always about conflict. And I think that premise really helps to draw out the complexities of people and their belief systems. So how and where do my own value and belief systems clash against the reality of my everyday life? And that was a sort of universal issue and question at the heart of each podcast. Another key change was to sort of support a shift in the teaching and learning of worldviews. So sometimes worldviews can be summarized in sort of checklist format in the classroom. So key beliefs, holy books, festivals, worship places and practices. And our aim has been to create contextually based resources that try to capture a much more personalized, lived reality of religion and belief. So what does my life look like, for example, if I'm a Buddhist living in Cardiff, or if I'm a Black evangelical Christian living in Bristol? So sort of to capture those ideas.
Thank you, Emily. And particularly with the projects that have already finished, do have a look at their resources. Stephanie's and Emily's I've had the joy of seeing people using, and so I can speak for how powerful they are. Thank you. So we've looked at what your projects are. We've looked at what you were trying to change. Thank you for the people who are putting the questions in to the chat as well. We'll pick out some of those towards the end. So the next question we're looking at is what impact were you or are you hoping to see? Some of you have talked a little bit about that already. And do you have any examples of that? So have you got anything concrete that you can tell us, things that you have seen happening? So Stephanie, you are going to go first on this. Have you seen anything that has changed and an impact has happened?
Yeah, I've already briefly talked about the impact that we're trying to achieve here, and really it's active engagement with ideas and problems and solutions and processes from the past, and thinking about how they relate to the present. Really, we've done quite an extensive evaluation of the project because we've done it with quite a lot of young people in lots of different countries, and so that in itself is evidence of. We've got really a lot of information, but if you want me to kind of give you some quite concrete examples, this year we've done a couple of workshops, one in Belfast. We brought kids together from a Catholic and a Protestant school that usually do not spend time together, and these are some of the comments that they gave us in response to the workshop. These are open comments, so we give them sort of questionnaires that have some prompted questions, but they can say, write down what they think, and they're anonymous, so they just gives you a flavour. So, for example, they said it's helped me to rethink the way I see religious peace and toleration, show how different religions can work together, think about religions, and I learned how to become friends with other religions, put the past behind us. And here are some comments from a workshop in Leicester that we also did this year. Yeah, I think some really nice feedback here because the process of filmmaking is so, you work in small groups of 3 to 4, and ultimately it requires so many different skills because it's about planning a film, interviewing other people potentially or each other, making artifacts and doing, it's quite a collaborative, creative process. And you can really see here through those comments how the young people were feeding back, how they really, it made them really think about the process. So I don't feel like I'm doing justice to the really quite wealth of evidence we have here, but you see some examples here at least. I'm not sure whether it's worth reading out the comments, but these are some examples.
I think that what's really interesting there, Stephanie, particularly that last one on our screens, it made me see through my bias. For example, the interviews, I assumed he was Christian when he was atheist. That is just an example of someone engaging with an authentic voice, isn't it? He's and also then reflecting on themselves and going, oh my goodness, I assumed because well, we can all think what they might have seen and but they had those conversations, so those voices came to the fore through your methodology.
And quite often it was also in the process of making the films, they talked to each other quite a lot about from their own different backgrounds. It wasn't just about the subject of the film, but also the process in itself was incredibly important, and that was really fed back in the comments as well.
Brilliant, thank you, Stephanie. Back to you, Emily. This is harder. This is about the impact you're hoping to see, and are there any examples already, or maybe examples that led you to want to do this?
Yeah, so over the 4 years, you can probably imagine we've collected quite a lot of data from all of our different 7 podcasts. So I thought I'd probably just share some of our findings from the most recent podcast, which was Exploring Buddhism in Cardiff. So as part of our reflective practice, we do some baseline questions at the beginning for young people, and then again at the end, and we repeat the same questions so we can kind of measure distance traveled. So a lot of this is kind of from that and some quotes. But so I just wanted to share. So at the start of the project, only 4 out of 30 children thought it was really important to have knowledge and understanding of religions and worldviews. But by the end, all 30 children responded that it was really important. And one child reflected, I think it's really important so you can respect and understand how people have it in their lives, and so that I can join in with some of the things that are important to them, like meditation, even though I'm a Muslim. The evaluation also showed a significant increase in the children's respect for others. So one child commented, some people might be scared of things they don't know, but it's good to learn about religion and worldviews because I want to be respectful and understand it. And at the start of the project, 27% of children said that they didn't think it was important to try and understand the world through someone else's eyes, but by the end, 97 rated this as highly important. And the other changes we talked about was reflective practice and teachers as well. So the year 6 teacher shared with us, I think the experience was impactful. It made me as a practitioner reflect on my knowledge and look for connections between this and other worldviews. It pushed me beyond my comfort zone and gave me the confidence to teach more broadly and inclusively. And we've sort of seen similar outcomes from the other 7 podcasts. And I'm sort of looking forward to the future. The other thing we're hoping to gather is the impact from the podcasts as audiences as well, as it's being used kind of more broadly in education. So that's a kind of exciting new learning for us as well moving forward.
Thanks, Emily. You may have noticed that Gillian has put the link to that project into the chat as well. Although, the resource spotlight tomorrow as well. Don't miss that. I think what's great about the resources that have been produced is that they are authentic voices. I know a little bit about how you went out to find those voices. You really worked with each of the communities. I know this because one of them was in Leicester where I live, and I was able to put you in touch with people. But you were looking for real communities and real young children and young people to do that work. So I think absolutely really plays into the title of what they've done. And it's great that you've got that impact work, and you will have it over a period of time, Emily. Thank you. So next we're going to hear from Simone. So Simone, what about impact? Any examples of that from either your project or from what you have seen from the other projects that the panel have seen as well? We had a big event 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where we heard from lots of the people who had grants.
Yes, so the Home Educators Fund has actually really helped myself to look outside of the box and what we can do as a home education family to express those religion and worldview focus in our own household, but also as well to inspire others to be very creative in the way that they do it. And so we've seen direct impact in terms of connecting people. There was a lot of people that had met for the first time at our event and have since met up, and they then came to the Home Educators event together. And this is people from 2 different religious backgrounds, and now they're actually thinking of applying together to create something quite similar to what we did, and to serve the wider community. So that was really nice. And the fact that we had a lot of our songs and worship songs as well were also sung in different languages. There was Yoruba, there was Swahili, there was Igbo, and there was some in Caribbean patois as well. And that made people feel even more connected to the actual process of the event, because they could hear their own languages and their mother tongue, so to speak. In terms of how we have, I would say that, the outdoor gathering for us was something that was really important to, and it helped us to connect with nature and to connect with source, and how we actually, related to each other's needs in that time as well, because people were sharing food, people were sharing fruits. We brought along a fruit trolley and everything too. So yes, the impact that it's had has been quite positive, and I feel like going forward people are already talking about involving us in their events too, that they are going to create following their applications for the Home Educators Fund.
Thank you, Simone. I think one of the things I picked up from that home education event as well was that for many people, they perhaps hadn't been thinking about doing religion and worldviews education within their home education. And this has helped people to think about it. And so there were great stories about people. There was one in Shropshire where a group have been to visit lots of different places of worship together as part of their community. And that wasn't something that they were able to do. Thanks, Simone. We're going to move on to Roman now.
Thank you. So we're trying to help reposition teachers in their role into more of a mode of being a facilitator or guide, to have an additional tool in their toolkit. And as they do that, we're also trying to reposition students to think about what they're bringing to the classroom, that they can also be part of the instructional model. And we want people to then begin to see and to tell stories about their own lived experiences. So much of interreligious or interfaith or religious studies or religious education work feels like it comes from the top down. It can often be very cerebral. It can often be like trying to learn a language from a textbook, which, if you've ever tried, it only gets you so far. What we're trying to do is invite people to learn a kind of fluency as opposed to literacy alone. Fluency means that I'm making mistakes. It means that I'm trying things out. It means that I'm experimenting, that it means that I have relationships that I'm building. And that's what happens through our process of snapping photos, engaging in dialogue together, asking one another questions, and then going out and repeating that process several times. It also builds some critical thinking skills among the people that are involved. They begin to think about their own daily lived experiences. It raises awareness. It invites them to interrogate parts of their own lives and experiences. It chips away at bias and prejudice, because now we're beginning to hear about one another's daily experiences directly from someone who is different than you.
Yeah.
It's an invitation. It's an invitation to have conversations that we might not otherwise have. And at the end of the process, we hope that people will be empowered. Again, at the end of several sessions of photo voice and conversations, participants curate their photos into an art exhibit that they can use in their school or their community or more broadly. And during an opening night reception, there is the student, the photographer, the participant standing next to some of their photos. And as community members, as stakeholders, as leaders, teachers, heads of school come through that exhibit, the student has a chance to tell some of their story. And maybe it's a story of hope on one hand, maybe it's a story of need. Maybe there's a dietary need that's not being met by the food services in the school, for example, which sometimes happens. And what if that student then could be empowered to winsomely engage around that need? Or maybe it's a space to pray. Now they're asking for needs in a different way. Anyways, these are some of the changes that we hope to see. We've seen these types of things happen in community based work around the world, really, also in universities, and we've done some work in schools here in the US and seen these kinds of things happen as well.
Thank you, Roman. Lots to chew on there, and some love for what you're saying in the chat as well, Roman. Do check that out. Alexis, over to you.
Thank you. So as I said before, our main impact is to empower more girls to be confident, ethical, globally minded change makers, and also to empower more girls to work confidently in equal partnership with boys to achieve this. Alongside that, we hope to empower religion and worldview teachers, any religion and worldview teachers, with the confidence that they can contribute this through making small changes. It doesn't have to be a whole scale change. And that through this advisory Key Stage 3 religion and worldviews curriculum, unique for UK girls' schools in content skills and pedagogy, that focus on the world's biggest challenges for women, that there are easy takeaways, little tweaks that can actually alter the lens of lessons and over time contribute to this change. We hope to ensure the visibility of womanist theology, and very importantly, that there is the diversity and intersectionality of girls' voices move from feedback to the design stage of curriculum, and that religion and worldviews is positioned in a way that it's deeply connected to diversity and intersectionality of girls' lived contexts. And it connects to the wider curriculum, and it's not siloed in the religion and worldviews classroom.
Thanks, Alexis. I think what you're talking about there is so important, because if you look at curricula in our subject, the voice of women are not there as much as they might be. And I know you can say that for history. I know you can say that for lots of other things, but it's really interesting with your work with only girls in your schools, and thinking about what that looks like if you don't see yourself at any point in that curriculum. So we're very excited to see what comes out at the other end, and that you're building on work that you've mentioned other people are doing as well. Right. Go on.
Sorry, just to mention what I think from a religion and worldviews perspective is absolutely fascinating, that in the early stages of religion, in the earliest stages, women are very present and their voice is very present. Then we have this phenomena, and in primitive religions, for want of a better term, women seem to be much more evident. So this shift is absolutely fascinating and to be challenged.
And also, if you went into religious communities right now, then you would find women very present there as well.
Yes.
I have been in spaces where people have said, if women stop doing anything, this would just stop. Lots of men do things as well, but a lot of women do things, and I think that's sometimes not seen. Thank you, Alexis. So we're coming to my final question. I've seen a few. I've seen a great debate going on in the chat, but I'm ignoring it. But I've seen a couple of questions as well. Alexis, keep your eye on that because there's at least one for, or not two for you. So have a little look at those. My final question that I'm going to ask everybody is: can you give one or two examples of how schools or teachers or home educators or education professionals or other organisations involved in this can amplify authentic voices? So the voices that come from religion and worldview traditions, how can we amplify those voices? And I think quite rightly, we're going to start with Emily, who's got a completed project in this area. And this was absolutely at the centre of what you were doing, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking about sort of what was some of the most impactful things across our project. And really the thing that comes up again and again is those interactions of young people from that particular worldview or religion, and sort of what that achieved. And I think that was impactful in our situation for a number of reasons. First of all, young people really knew from the beginning that the interactions were about them building drama, were about them creating podcasts and resources, so that it was applied. So that before they had those meetings and interactions, there was proper preparation around what sort of questions do I need to ask? How do I really understand this person's perspective on their religion or worldview? And that really helped to draw out kind of meaningful and complex discussion. And I think just trying to remember that human stories are really impactful and will resonate. So I was thinking of a particular example, one of our early podcasts, when we met with members of evangelical Christianity, and one person was talking about their story of conversion and how they had decided to become baptized, but their family found it quite problematic. That they had wanted to become a Christian, and none of them had attended his baptism. And the young people responded really strongly to, how hurt and how emotional that story was, and that kind of really formed part of the drama in the podcast. So I think that's really important, finding ways to have deep and meaningful conversations, and using creative means to explore those. And then also on top of that, I mean, a really easy way to do it is just to use our resources. So we have got these 7 lovely podcasts that are 45 minutes in length, and each one has got an in-conversation element that discusses each of the audio dramas in depth. And also you can see how there's varying opinions within those guests on the podcast. So you can really see the kind of breadth of that particular approach, and a personalized view of that theme, which is great. And each one's also got this kind of lovely soundscape, which kind of helps personal reflection and to really be immersed in that particular worldview. And there's also lots of activities that you can utilize from our education pack as well.
Brilliant. Look out for that resource spotlight tomorrow. Simone, have you got anything to add about how, well, maybe particularly home educators, but anyone can amplify authentic voices?
I did. I have something written down, actually. I wrote down that music and other creative subjects are expressive, and they can encourage us to tap into our souls. And that expression then comes out with that authenticity that we're all looking for. And it's important to keep the creative subjects, the expressive arts alive. And it's so important. It balances out with the other, well, I don't like to use the term core, but, the other subjects that are seen as just as important and more important in most cases. But, it's really important that we keep these creative subjects alive so that we can amplify authentic voices in different walks of life. And during our video, we also interview some of the family members and friends that came along to the event. So that would be interesting to hear what they have to say about how they weave faith into their everyday life.
Thank you, Simone. And of course, as you say, creativity very important, and very important in lots of religious and non-religious worldviews as well. Thanks, Simone. Stephanie, how can we amplify authentic voices of each?
Yeah, again, I mean, it very much resonates with what others have been saying. In my case, I think filmmaking is a really powerful tool to do that, because it's a collaborative process. It's a way of really for young people to be creative and think about how they present issues and perceive issues. And I think filmmaking can be used in a wide range of different ways, in not just in the context of our project. And again, I'll put the link to our resources, because we've got this online course for teachers to use our resources and make docutubes themselves with young people. But I think film as a broader takeaway from the project, I really would say the importance of creative methods is absolutely something that comes out of our project as well. And I think another thing that comes out is the creation of, I don't know, I'm always struggling for the right word, but I would say safe spaces. That's how the participants have described it themselves, that they really valued that, the way the discussions were held, or for us, the project and the way we approach the docutube making is framed by discussion. And it's also about, like, first of all, leading up to thinking about the issues that they're going to cover, but actually also about reflecting on what they presented and how they perceive issues. And I think it was very, very strongly reflected in what the teenagers fed back to us, is that they really valued the space to talk about sometimes quite difficult issues, and about how they're perceived religious diversity in their community, how they read the media, and how they thought about these issues. And I do think, I don't think there's enough of that. And it highlights the value of high quality religion and worldview education as well, which is sometimes neglected in schools. And I think I think those are the two things I would take away from it as impact, is filmmaking or creative methods and the creation of safe spaces.
Thanks, Stephanie. And I'm loving that. I would say this, wouldn't I? But that you're taking that into primary. So you have started it off in secondary, but you're absolutely looking at making that work in primary as well. Lizzie, noticed your question in the chat, thought I'd draw that in. Alexis, over to you.
Thank you. My first one is credited to Nikki McGee, who's wonderfully enthusiastic about this project. And the takeaway from Nikki was that when building in authentic voices in schools, look for the quick wins to other areas of the curriculum that may have more time and already be using authentic voices. For example, in history, civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. Then extend that, say, to Malcolm X and his conversion experience. In English, Maya Angelou, and then extend that to womanist theology. My second takeaway on that for all context is just building in critical reflection questions. So, for example, in school, I have genius cards on key concepts, keywords that we use. And at this part of this project, I'm trialing having a girls' first lens question added to those, in fact, several. And I got those, in fact, from the 1988 SHAP Working Party report on women in religion, which we don't appear to have actually moved that much further on yet. And they ask generic questions such as, in whatever topic you're looking at, or religion or worldview, what's a woman's ordinary day-to-day experience of their religion? What's their extraordinary experience in their religion? So, for example, Joan of Arc experience, and how is this represented? What is women's role and status in different religious traditions and their institutions? How are women presented in religious language and thought of their religion? And what was women's own religious experience within their religion? And how far is that represented in religion's teaching? Just those amazing questions can be applied to a wide range of topics, and getting that critical reflection embedded in our students' minds.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexis. Finally, Roman, and we may have time for one or two questions.
Well, I just reflect briefly on one of the themes that I'm hearing here is the role of creativity and of art and the way that art engages a different side of us. I think that's very important. You know, I guess my advice for amplifying voices, maybe it comes from an example I'd like to show you briefly. And I promise to be quick. I know time is short, but I trained a young person to years ago, and then they ran a project with some youth that were younger than them. So a group of teenagers essentially, and they wanted to explore this value, hope. And one of their prompts was this: what does hope look like in your everyday life? And one of the young people brought a picture of an Amazon delivery truck. And when I first saw that picture before hearing the story, I thought, well, of course, yeah, I hope that when I see the truck pulling up in my neighborhood, I hope that delivery's for me, or I hope that when I get home from work that the package is still going to be on my doorstep, or whatever the hope might be. But this picture wasn't about that. It was about something very different. And so maybe lesson number one is be prepared to be surprised by young people. I think those of you that are educators, this is happening daily in class. But this young person, Lucia, wanted to use this picture to talk about her hope that because this is an all-electric vehicle, that this was a sign of change, a sign of a different approach to taking care of the environment, which was very much part of her personal worldview. Lucia was inspired, and some of that spillover that you were talking about earlier, Alexis, I think that's definitely here in this example. Lucia went on to write a poem about hope. Is hope the dew that clings to our world at dawn, or the after smell of rain? Is it the tulip that sprouts in the crack of concrete in the spring? What's hope to someone who has already lost all? Hope is the lone lily in the middle of a pond of ink. Hope is a spark in the middle of a dark night that can start a wildfire. Hope is a dandelion, a wish. Hope is a contagious particle carried in the breeze. Not bad for age 12. And I'll also point out here that she is a homeschooled person as well. And then finally, taking a picture like that and including it in an art exhibit. Here's Mia, the person that I had trained, kicking off an exhibition, standing there, talking, empowered, telling the story of her group. And so putting as much into the hands of participants, of learners, of young people. They are amazing humans, and they can do great things. So amplifying voices, put the tools within reach.
Thank you, Roman. So we've heard lots about amplifying community voices, but also amplifying voices of the learner. It's difficult to know which question to ask. Alexis, so many people want to talk to you. I'm going to ask one that's for all of you, though, or at least perhaps one or two of you, from Amira. When and how did you pick up examples of conflict between individuals and the authority figures within their communities? And if or when you did, how did you respond to this? So does anyone want to pick up this one? Have you had this in any of your work at all? Oh, Emily.
Well, we have a lot all the way through, quite a few examples, probably too many for me to dive into in depth, but one thing that has been both, wonderful and difficult is the approach of young people, because we've been co-creating with them, that they don't hold back on their questions, and we didn't ask them to hold back on their questions, but and conflicts did arise between people's opinions when they were interviewing people, and between their own opinions and those of the people they were interviewing. But I think what we tried to do really carefully was, where we knew that might happen, was to try and unpick the position of different thinking and what, how and why somebody might think in a particular way, and also frame young people in the position of investigators. So it wasn't their job to judge what somebody else's opinion of something might be, or their approach to something, but to find out about it and try and understand it. So that was really our approach throughout, and that seemed to work fairly well for us.
Thank you, Emily. Does anyone want to add anything else, or shall I go for a different question?
I was going to say that I did encounter quite a prickly situation when someone actually said to me that the assembly vibe that I was trying to create for people should be just for Christians, and the fact that it wasn't was something that they couldn't really be seen to be at because they don't really mix with other faiths. And it made me question what I was doing, and was I being disrespectful, or and then I tapped into some other Christian friends, and they said, well, no, it's an opportunity to share the gospel and to share your love for your faith. So you shouldn't feel funny about doing this event. You should definitely go ahead. And we did have many walks of life, different faiths join us and really enjoy it, including different Christian denominations, also Muslims, also Buddhists, and we really got together, and it was a really nice event.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask one more question. This is from Ruth. Question for anyone. Have you experienced any issues around how someone may define themselves as within a religion or worldview, and how others in that group may view them? Has that come up at all in terms of categorizing, for example? I'm choosing that one because honestly, the debate on the chat around that I have not had time to look at, I think is very interesting. So anyone want to sort of pick up on that? A nasty suspicion Emily might have something to say about this. You're very welcome to if you want to, Emily. How people categorize themselves, and it's a question about gatekeeping, isn't it, really?
Our process treats folks as though they are experts on their own lived experiences, and we invite them to tell their stories as authentically as they feel comfortable. And our method of facilitation creates spaces that are safe, where vulnerability can abide. And as facilitators, we sort of step in and help to protect those identities and spaces. So, think of a university student here in the States talking about being rejected by their family because they're trans, and then finding it hard to figure out what congregation that Christian can fit into because they live in a very conservative part of the country that might not be accepting of them, but finding connection in their university through the LGBT kind of office that's meant to help them. So helping them, connecting them to those resources and communities that can be helpful and support their identities, especially when they feel like they're in the minority or being kind of pushed out.
Thank you. That's really helpful. It's about this idea of helping people to express their lived experience, their religious or non-religious worldview. And it might be that some people, going back to Emily's answer around controversy, that there will be people within the community they've attached themselves to or said they're part of that would think very differently and might think something they've said is entirely wrong. But our job is not to gatekeep. It is to share these voices, but we're not ever sharing just one voice. We're sharing the variety of voices. Wow.
Yeah, and I think also for us it was really important, the diversity of voices as well, and the internal diversity of voices, that it's the categories don't really matter that much. Like quite often we found people with, I don't know, the mum being Orthodox Christian, the dad being Muslim, or I don't know, it's just it's a whole mix, and I think that mixture is really something that came out really strongly in our project, and the layers of that as well, in terms of how the history of the families, so generational differences, so that diversity was also really prominent.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. I would love it if you haven't already done it, those panel members, if you can drop any links to any resources. I think most of you have probably done that. Alexis, you haven't got any quite ready yet. I'm aware of that. You do pop those into the chat. We will, of course, be showcasing these resources. We've got that resource spotlight coming up tomorrow, but you can find information. Stephanie's put her resources link in there, but we've got a link as well on the RE Online website. Thank you to absolutely everybody, whether you've been here as an active participant, a listener, whether you've been engaging lots in the chat. Thank you for this. There will be lots more you will hear from these grantees and other people we have given we've given funding to as well. As you know, we've been recording this session, so you'll be able to tell other people about it who haven't been able to come along. In maybe a week, 10 days, this will be up on the RE Online website, together with links to all the other assets we've brought out, the films and the blogs and the spotlights that have come out this week. Our next focus week is on the week starting Sunday, the 9th of November, and it is all focused around Interfaith Week. We've got lots happening in that week. We're not having an in conversation quite like this one. It's going to be a little bit different, and we're working out that at the moment, so watch this space. Thank you for engaging with Culham St Gabriel's, and particularly thank you to all our participants today. Have a lovely evening.